Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Bring Back the Love Conversations. I am your host for this evening, AJ Throwback. Of course, this is a conversation about love, romance, and R&B, continuing in our Love Languages series. And I am so honored to have a brother that I've known for the past 3 years. This is our first time on
Jeez.
camera together. You know
Has
what
it
I'm
been
saying?
three
When I say
years?
it's been 3 years, bro. It's been
Damn.
3 years. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll
Yeah,
take it.
maybe even longer, but I think it's
Okay.
definitely been three because shout out to our brother Ryan Lucas. He's the one that actually put me on to you.
Yeah.
And with the song Catch a Vibe. And
Ah, yeah.
yeah, so from that moment I was like, oh yeah, this is my type of jam right here. So
Yes,
like we
sir.
connected at that time. I had my show, the Independence Avenue Drive at 5 at the time, and I was throwing some love, you know what I'm saying, to that song, and everything. And
Facts.
then we just kept the vibe going from there, and we've been building from there. But
Yes, sir.
my brother, Mark W, you know what I'm saying? And
What's
with the
happening?
DMV connection on top of
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Already. I told you my folks is out there right now. They in what's it, Glendale, Maryland.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not too far from, probably about, I'd say about 20, 25 minutes from here. You know what I'm saying?
Where's here for you?
So for me, here is Silver Spring, Maryland.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna know
So
that next time because I'm supposed to be clicking up out there soon. I want to say the summer, but me and the wife is planning a trip across the seas, so I don't know what the funds is gonna look like, but I'm gonna do my best to get up out there.
yeah, hey, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. You already know we definitely got to hang out. You know what I'm saying? Once you
Absolutely.
come through, yeah, man.
Absolutely. I'm tired of staying at my folks' house every time I come out there because I don't know nobody. So we're gonna make that happen.
For sure, man. But I appreciate you for coming on the show tonight and agreeing to talk about good music,
Absolutely.
love languages, all that good stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? So I
Absolutely.
appreciate you for coming on the program.
Easy call. Easy call.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like, even though, and see, this is the thing that I appreciate about you as an artist. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know like a lot of what you do is hip hop, but
hmm
a lot of people may not be as well versed in the fact that you can sing too. You know what I'm saying? You got some vocals too. You know what I mean? So
That's
I
I
know that
keep that quiet, man. I keep that quiet. I don't tell nobody about that.
well,
These bars.
your music is loud.
It is loud. It
So
is
they
loud.
can't avoid it. They can't
It
avoid
is loud.
it.
And see, if my mama heard
Yeah,
you right
man.
now, she'd be like, "See, I told you. You need to go ahead and do it. You need to do it already."
The mamas be knowing.
Man, they know well before you even have an inkling. So yeah,
Yeah.
attribute that. Yeah, so I definitely incorporate a lot of singing into it. I wouldn't call myself an R&B head as much as I would call myself tuned in with gospel. Like that's my upbringing. I was raised in church, and then naturally that lends itself to R&B. So
Yeah.
definitely have some background in that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's dig into that because I think it's natural for, even though this is like an R&B focused podcast, there
Right.
are connections that are inevitable when it comes to R&B and gospel. So like dig
hmm
a little bit more into like your roots musically in terms of what you listen to growing up, like whether it's gospel, whether it's R&B, whether it's hip hop,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Like what were the type of things that you listened to in your household growing up?
So music wasn't. I mean, it's crazy that I have music so embedded in my family, but it wasn't a heavy focal point. The heaviest focal point was sports in school. And when I did get into music, it was a lot of as I'm attributed to my homeboy St. James, proper R&B. So James Brown, the Motown sound, if you will, Smokey Robinson. Who else was I listening to? Temptations a lot. Actually, a lot of Quincy Jones. Like every Christmas, I don't know if you remember from I think want to say late '80s, early '90s, he did a hip hop album, and
Yeah. Back
so
on the
from
block.
there, Back, thank you. That's what
Yeah.
it was. Back on the block. Yeah. So every Christmas, it was either a Motown Christmas or Quincy Jones Christmas,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of. I remember sitting in the back seat and watching my parents sing to each other as they were driving someplace, and it was a lot of those classic R&B hits.
Yeah.
My girl being the main one, they would sing to each other, and then then me and my mom got into show tunes, so I was singing Aladdin. We would sing Aladdin back and forth, and of course Michael Jackson was heavy in my house. My dad used to tape up my fingertips with the white tape, and I would walk around with the blue shirt, talking about the Way You Make Me Feel video. So
Yeah.
I would imitate that a lot. Then I got into Prince a little bit, not as much. I was more of a Michael Jackson fan. The older I'm getting, the more I come to appreciate what Prince was doing musically, and it was
Yeah.
crazy. I've always liked his music, but I appreciate it even more. And then when hip hop got introduced to me, my parents gave me MC Hammer. A hammer don't hurt him,
I
because
had that,
that was
same one, same one.
already, because it was kid friendly. They were cool with that. Like, all right, cool. He's not really doing a whole bunch of nonsense, unless you really get into Hammer's past, and then you realize he was with all of the nonsense. So,
Yeah.
when I got into it for myself, it was West Coast all day. I didn't know West Coast hip hop. I didn't know that most other hip hop artists were even from other places. I just thought everybody was from the West. That includes Bone Thugs and Harmony. That includes Biggie Small, not Biggie Small so much, but the whole Bad Boy camp. I don't know if we could talk about Bad Boy right now, considering all the heat
Right.
that Diddy's under. But you get what
We
I'm
can
saying.
talk about the artists.
We can talk about the artists. There you go. There we go. We'll talk about the artists. But having that foundation of R&B, and then with gospel, it was a lot of Kirk Franklin, a lot of Yolanda Adams, and who was Fred Hammond.
Yes.
Who else was I listening to? Oh, this is not gospel, but Sweet Honey in the Rock. My aunt actually auditioned for them. It's a folk group, for everybody who don't know. Folk like a cappella type styles stuff.
Yeah.
My aunt actually was not auditioned, but she was supposed to be in the group, but something happened and she couldn't do it. But she comes from that, so like Mahalia Jackson and that type of vocal range. My mom's side of the family is all like those type of Southern gospel singers, and then on my dad's side, they was all church stuff. So that's all they were really listening to. So when it comes to that, my foundation is gospel, R&B, and those type of arrangements.
Yeah.
So that's what I grew up
And
listening to.
yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, saying from the outset, the connections from gospel and R&B. I mean, you don't get R&B without gospel.
You don't.
Like the
You definitely
gospel
don't.
is really, yeah, it's really the foundation. When you think about black music since we've been in this country, like it's the foundation for all black music. And it's,
Absolutely.
a lot of people don't want to admit that, but I mean, I always think about the Ray movie
Oh
when you
yeah.
saw Ray playing. I forget which song it was, but you had the pastor
Yeah.
in the bar at the time that he was playing in.
Oh,
And he's like,
he lost it. He
yeah,
lost it.
yeah, because he basically took like a church song and flipped it into a secular song. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But then it's funny that you mentioned listening to Kirk Franklin, listening to
Mm-hmm.
Yolanda Adams, because I think what makes them special, and they're among my favorites as well, and
Gotcha.
Fred Hammond to a lot of
Oh
degrees.
man.
I mean, Fred Hammond is a beast, but the
Yeah,
thing is,
you
it's
heard his
like,
R&B album too, right? Fred
yeah,
Hammond's R&B,
yeah,
bruh. That thing was,
yeah,
you could play that right next to any radio song, and you'd be like, "Oh, we setting the vibe here." But he's talking about,
right,
and it lends to this conversation. He's talking about love, but as it relates to gospel music and in
Ex-
being in a sanctified love, if you will.
exactly,
Yeah, it's
exactly,
dope. But yeah, that
exactly. Like the
foundation is
two.
key.
Yeah, absolutely. And they go hand in hand. Like you think about what Kirk Franklin has done, you think about what Yolanda Adams has done, and like you said, even Fred Hammond having like more of an R&B kind of feel to an album. It's
Yeah,
like you really can't have. I'm gonna say you can't have one without the other. You can have gospel without R&B, but you can't have R&B without gospel. But
right.
Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, Fred Hammond, a lot of what they do kind of leans a little bit more into that R&B lane,
Yeah.
whereas I think that's what makes their appeal jump out a little bit more. It's not so hardcore gospel,
Right.
but it
Right.
still keeps the spirit of gospel and kind of
Right.
sort of showing at the same time like we can do this because the roots come from what we do.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
anybody can kind of sort of like take those pieces of R&B and repurpose them, it's us, you know.
Right, right, right. Talk about us for real, us for
Right,
real, us.
right. Exactly,
Not knocking
exactly. But
anybody else of the of a lighter melanated complexion, but just know, just
right,
know.
exactly, exactly. And on top of that, not only us as a community, but just thinking about the gospel community as
Mm,
well. You know, because
hmm.
a lot of times, like you think about the Kirk Franklins, the Yolanda Adams, like I think a lot of times they catch a lot of flack because their music is almost too much on a borderline for the
Right.
traditionalists and gospel. And it's like, but how else do you think you're going to reach the
That
people
was
outside of
exactly
the
my point.
church?
That was
Yeah,
actually my point. So I always have this issue with a lot of people who are just heavy into the church and there's nothing else outside of it. I'm so grateful that you found your salvation and your peace early and didn't have to go through too much. But it says something when you've gone through something, been on the secular side, and then find your way to salvation and can speak through that, but also speak to those who haven't found it yet in a language that they
right.
understand. And I always have this argument with anybody who, and I hope I don't get you in trouble for this, but this is
It's all
completely my
good, brother.
thinking, right? So when it comes to people who follow Christ, it's, do you think, we know he spoke to the common, the lowly, and those who were downtrodden. What language do you think they were speaking? They didn't know curse words like we know them today. They had a different type of verbiage to it. But do you think to speak to them, he spoke in the king's English? Or did he
Right.
meet them where they were at and try to elevate them?
Exactly.
I'm gonna let your mind
Exactly.
roam on that one, everybody listening. But just know, like he might have used. I mean, you in order to get mad and throw stuff in the church in the steeple, and not a steeple,
Come
in the
on
church
now.
in the temple,
In the temple.
and
Uh-huh.
to cuss like that. You think he didn't practice a couple times beforehand? We didn't see him from 12 until 33. There's a whole lot of time. I don't know when you were 15. I know I was using language my parents wasn't proud of. So let's not sit here and act like the man didn't use some choice words just to get his point across. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is get our point across. And that's what I think Yolanda Adams, Fred Hammond, Kirk Franklin, specifically Kirk Franklin, because he catches more flack than anybody. It's
Yes, he
how do I
does.
get my message across so that those who I'm trying to reach understand it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's why he hits the mark more often than not
Right.
because he understands that. Like and to your point, I never forget it was one time. This was 2009. I never forget it. Like it
Okay.
happened yesterday. And
Okay.
my wife and I, we were going to this church that was literally right around the corner from where we were living in Southeast
Okay.
DC. And I never forget the pastor had said something that like along the lines of like basically downing hip hop. And he felt
Mm.
like, and even Christian hip hop. This is the crazy thing about it. It's like
Hmm.
he felt like that was bringing God down to our level
Interesting.
by
Interesting
yeah,
concept.
yeah. I didn't agree with the concept either,
No, I don't
because
agree
it's
with that.
like yeah, because I'm like if you are reaching people, if you are winning souls for Christ,
Mm-hmm.
if this is the goal of the church, if this is the goal of being a Christian, what does it matter what the medium is that you're using it for in order to win them? You know what I'm saying? And in
Right.
the same way, connected to the whole conversation about how Kirk Franklin does what he does, how Yolanda Adams does what she does, how Fred Hammond does what he does, how
Yeah.
anybody does what they do that's in the gospel realm, that's in the Christian rap realm, no matter what it is, it's like if you're actually reaching people
Yeah.
and you're saving somebody's life and you're bringing somebody
Man.
closer to God so that they can have an actual personal relationship with him,
Right.
isn't that the point? Does it matter whether it's
It
rap?
should be the point, and I think people want to
Right.
mold it to look the way they want it to, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to how it fits for everybody. It's now your relationship is your relationship. Don't make your relationship somebody else's. And I think that's where we get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these combating ideologies. It's like, no, it should look like, well, it's supposed to look like, well, nah, you're supposed to have your own relationship. If we're talking about supposed to, you're
Yeah.
supposed to have your own relationship. My relationship ain't gonna look like yours. I remember the first time I was in a prayer circle and somebody asked me to pray. I was like, I don't know if you want me to pray, because the way I pray ain't gonna look like yours. And they're like, no, 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 brother, go ahead and do it. And I dropped the S-bomb and they were like, oh no, I can't have, like, all right, well, you asked me to pray. This is how I talk to my creator. He knows what the hell I be talking about. So yeah, as
And you
far
know
as like,
what's funny is you're not the only person I know that that will say that. Like, I
yeah,
mean, like some of the most sanctified people I know, they have that same relationship. You know what I'm
it's,
saying? And it's
but
like,
that's the thing. It's my
yeah,
relationship. When you
right,
don't judge me, I'm still walking.
right.
I ain't finished walking. Bring the book out and judge when I'm finished walking. Right now, I'm still walking like you still walking. Let me figure it out. If I'm wrong,
That
let me be wrong.
that part. Exactly, exactly. You know what I mean? I
Hell yeah.
respect it. I respect it, man.
Appreciate
You
it,
know?
bro. I hope I don't
Yeah.
get you in trouble with all this. And I
Oh
know my
no, no, no.
man.
Trust me when I tell you that, again, I know a lot of people
Yeah.
who have that same type of relationship with God. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it's not always a comfortable thing for them to share it with other people, because it's
Right.
like that's their walk, and it's like they don't want to feel like they're being judged for how they walk with God or how they talk
Right.
to God. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, people will easily come out and say, "Oh, you know, you're not supposed to talk to God like that," and blah 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 blah. And it's like, I'm not here. My thing is, what is the intent behind the relationship? That's
Right.
the most important thing. Like, what is the purity behind the relationship versus how the language comes across or how the talk comes across. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So,
Yeah. I'm
and
with you.
and it's so funny that we're having this conversation, or like this is the natural trajectory of it, as we're talking about like a conversation about love languages. And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely want to make sure that I put a pin in this particular part of the conversation as we
Already. I
circle
got you.
back to that.
Yes, sir.
Because
Yes, sir. I
that's
got you.
perfect. That's absolutely perfect. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
That's God right there.
I see where you. No, absolutely. At all times. At all times. And
Yeah.
and he good all the time.
Yes. All the time. All the
And all the
time.
time, God is good.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So, and so that I see where you're going with that conversation. I'm gonna let you get to it, but I see where you're going with it as far
Oh
as
yeah.
languages
Oh
go.
yeah.
I see.
Oh yeah.
The pen. It don't lie. The people who know how to write can see
Mm-hmm.
where it go. Go ahead, brother. I ain't gonna
You
try to
pick up
take
what
over
I'm
your
putting
show.
down.
I'm picking it up. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, although like it was, I mean, you named a lot of artists, like
Yeah.
like especially like the Motown era of
Hmm.
R&B, soul, you know, all of that. And even like kind of sort of talking about about Michael Jackson. A lot of people,
Yeah.
they always kind of sort of put the King of Pop tag on Michael Jackson.
That's
But
fair. It's
it
fair.
is fair. It is
Yeah.
fair. But I think he would probably say his roots would be R&B, soul,
Yes.
even funk to certain degrees. Because I mean, if you think about how heavily influenced he was by James Brown
Yeah.
and Jackie Wilson,
Yeah.
like I mean, these
Yeah.
first and foremost, these are guys who are performers. But second
Absolutely.
of all, like these are guys who had funk to their music. Jackie Wilson was good for some good swing with his
Yeah.
stuff. Like his
Right.
music just had a certain just kind of sway to it that not everybody had.
Yeah.
And so just kind of sort of thinking about like those combinations in terms of styles. How do you think that kind of shaped you
Hmm.
as you move forward artistically into
Hmm.
doing what you do, like whether it's the gospel influence, whether it's the
Right.
R&B influence, whether it's the hip-hop influence, whether it's specifically the West Coast
Yeah.
influence? How do you think that all of that shaped how you looked at things musically
So
and
that's a great
creatively?
question. That's a great question, and all of those points, I think it does matter because it definitely influences the way I write, the way I perform, and the way I attack things musically. So first off, let me start here. I was tone deaf for the longest in my life, and my
Oh
mom
wow.
worked. My mom worked on trying to make sure I heard myself against music because I just couldn't do it. The notes I would hit when they were right sounded good, but then I'd fall off because I couldn't hear myself, especially against other people or against the music. So that was the first thing that being in choirs helped me out with gospel.
Mm,
Just being able to hear myself in relation with other people and then knowing what I sound like in the midst of that, knowing how to blend. I think that is something a lot of modern choirs forget, where
hmm
it's a choir. It's not you and a bunch of people. It's a choir, a group type of thing. So that creatively lended me to say, I need to be able to blend into the track. I need to be a part of the music. I need to know where I sit in relation to the drums, to the keys, to the bass, to the overtures, all those things, and then where are we going with it? The part I love most about being in choirs and those breakdowns was, when the director was in tune with the band so much that he can control the alto section, the tenor section, the sopranos, and then create this new melody on the spot or create this new moment on the spot that the track doesn't have. And that lends itself to the performance aspect. So when we talk about a Michael Jackson, when we talk about a Prince, when we talk about even Kurt Franklin to that extent, when you see them attack a stage, it's how can I make this moment stand out? Michael was
hmm
good for standing in the middle of stage and just standing there.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you absorb this moment and let it build, and then once that build hits a certain point, you know where we're going because the band is so in tune. That's one thing I love about being able to have a band on stage. I haven't had that privilege in a very long time, but being able to have, like I do arrangement, because as you see, we're sitting in my studio, having access to stems as I'm creating music. Okay, this is cool right here, but what if I drop this here? Kept the bass. Let me get some claps in the background. Okay, bet. Now we
hmm
going somewhere and I'm making it a little different and I'm giving a little, we call it ear candy as we go through the track so that every part of the music isn't premeditated. It's like, oh, I didn't know that was coming. But if you're not in tune with how you sound in relation, then you won't be ready to catch those things. That's why I had to start it off by saying my mom had to teach me about my
Yeah.
tone deafness. So, and so listening to R&B, that helps with the melody of things because hip hop, in the most traditional sense, now we're in a melody boom where everybody's keyed in on the melody so much so that they forget about the lyrics. Another conversation, another day.
Yeah.
But traditionally, hip hop was just about the rhyme and the message and how we kept the groove going, how we get into
hmm
that groove and in that pocket. And then
Yeah.
get the crowd moving in that sense. It didn't lend itself too much to melody. It took me a while to realize that I really do love melody. Again, tapping back with what I was raised on. When I found hip hop, it was like, oh, this is it, nothing else. But then when I remembered, like, no, bro, you grew up in church. You
Yeah.
grew up listening to your parents singing R&B. These things, I danced so much to that stuff. Why am I neglecting that side of it? Don't be ashamed of it. Put that piece in and let it and see where you can go in that space. So like a song like a Catch a Vibe, like you said, or a Pressure Cooker, or even my new stuff now, Good to Go, or Feels Like,
Mhm.
I can still rhyme, but let me remember that there are these other elements that I really do gravitate towards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's powerful because that actually brought up like a just a question on the fly.
Mm.
So how do you believe that melody
Mm-hmm.
and like the melody of like say gospel and R&B and the pocket groove
Mm.
of being a lyricist, being a rapper, how do you think that those two kind of marry themselves?
Mm.
Whether you talk about a hip hop song or any type of song, because I mean, if you think about it, even a lot of R&B singers now, the
Yeah.
way that they kind of weave their vocals in tracks now is much like rappers.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And even though a lot of times we don't like to bring his name up, but one of the first people that like I really felt like did that very well. I'm not gonna say
Mm.
he was the first, but I think because he started off as a rapper, and a lot of people don't realize that he had like whole songs of him rapping, and then but we all know him for a singer, and that's R. Kelly.
Ah, got
And
you.
he was one of the people that really just understood how to sing well, but at the same time
Hmm.
fall into a groove when it came to how he delivered his vocals. So how do you feel like those two, and he doesn't have to necessarily be the example
Right.
or that it's a hardcore example, but how do you feel like those two relate to one another when it comes to any type of music, but specifically like R&B, hip hop,
R&B.
gospel?
Yeah, I think I think when you sit into that pocket and you really tuck in, whether it's the melody or just a rhythmic section, when you really tuck in and your vibe and you're really on that frequency, then you have the message. Talk about the lyricism. When you have that message and you're really in that zone, it does something. It does something to your heart. I know for me, that's where I find my spiritual awakening is when somebody is so in pocket, the message is so tough, and I can follow them start to finish. It's like I can't remember the song you had that I listened to on your joint. It was like it almost was no hook, and it was a real boom bap sound. I will remember it after this, but that's
Was
what
it
made
Take
me
37?
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
You were in that space where it was like everything was just in pocket. The melody, the delivery, everything, and it touches something in you. And when you're fabricating it, or when you're learning it, or when you don't quite know what it is you're tapping into, it could sound good, but it won't touch anything. It just will. It'll just like, okay, that was cool, as opposed to, oh my God, what just happened?
Yeah.
So having those, you know what I mean? Like and when those things converge all at once, you definitely have a spiritual moment, whether you want to recognize it as spiritual or not, because we're touching on frequencies. And if you do your homework with music and all that goodness and the high power, there's a real deep connection there. But when that happens, it's a magical moment. And I know for most of us as lyricists and musicians and those who songwrite are really chasing after that magical moment. Doesn't matter what the subject matter is. I need this thing to feel as though, the best example I can give, feel as though you've never heard it before and you want to keep hearing it. The best moment I give is on Empire, the first season, I think the first episode, where he was in the Lucius Lyon, aka Terrence Howard, was in the studio with the singer, and she was singing the notes. It sounded good, technically proficient, but he cuts the recording, comes in, and he says, "That ain't it." And then he walks her through this moment, like, you remember when your brother was sick and when you were in the hospital and you had to go. And then she goes into that space, and then she delivers. Same timing, same all that, but there was something just a little different that she connected with, and the melody and the pocket and the lyrics, all of it just kind of converged because there was an emotional connection to it. So I think to that piece, until you really tap into it, and tap into the emotional side and let it move you a little bit, I don't think all you can be technically proficient, but until you actually let that thing sink, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, you
on an emotional level.
Yeah, you drop some serious bars with that, bro. Because I mean, like, when you really think about the Black music experience specifically, specifically, because I feel like that's what separates our music from any other music on the planet Earth. Is that especially those of us who actually, because I mean, it's not across the board, because if that were the case, then what we hear on the radio, half of that would sound different. But that's another story for another day.
Right.
You know,
I was gonna say, we really want to do that right now. We can. I can go for hours on that
one. And I mean, that's part of that. Honestly, that's part of the point of this whole series. It's not just like the love, but also the soul, the emotions, the actual connection to what you're singing about, what you're rapping about, what you're talking about, whatever it might be, however you're communicating the music. Like, that's the love to me. It's like, do you even believe what you're saying out of your mouth?
That point,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
do you believe it?
Right.
Make me believe that you believe it.
Right. Because like you said, you could be technically proficient. I hear it all the time. Where it's like certain rappers, like, I mean, they are robotic almost with it. But I don't feel what they're saying. You know what I'm saying?
One dude that I feel is there right now, and it's probably gonna be a hot button issue, but I think M is there right now. Like when he came out with Infinite, the Slim Shady EP, the LP, Marshall Mathers, and then he starts to lose it for me at Encore. But after that, it becomes like, okay, you can just do this. You can take these similes and metaphors and all these technically proficient ways of rhyming, all these terms, and do it, but then I don't feel it no more. But when I heard Infinite, well, Infinite's not the best example because he didn't really find his lane, but Slim Shady EP,
Yep.
and the LP for that matter. When he got into that, no, I couldn't relate to the subject matter, but I could relate to that emotion of I don't like getting
Yes.
messed with on a regular basis. I
Yeah.
don't like being the odd man out in any given situation. Yes, we're talking about
Hmm.
white in a black world, but for me, I was the nerd. I was the book smart kid. I was the parents who
Hmm.
actually did well in an environment where in Inglewood, California, not everybody's doing that well. How do I
Right.
navigate in that space? And then I'm getting teased for it. Man, I connected to that album so much just because I understood the frequency he was speaking to.
Yeah.
Now it's
Absolutely.
like, and then couple that with the skill that he has with rhyming, it's like, oh, get out of here. This is dope.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then years later, where we are now, don't get it twisted. I still think he rap his ass off, but I'm missing that you hurting. I'm missing that I feel like I need to prove something. Not to say that at a certain point you have to prove anything, but there's something to that emotion. Like when you feel like you got to prove something, there's a little bit
Yeah.
more hunger behind your in the back of your throat. Like, oh, he really
That's
want
right.
this. I don't
That's
feel
right.
that he want it no more. He ain't got to be rhyming and ripping cats' heads off. But at the same time, like I want to feel that hunger. I want to feel that drive. And to the emotional part of it, if you're missing that hunger, if you're missing that soul, that's something that you're going for. You're just not connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that whole aspect up in terms of that whole ribs is touching
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
Um, like what is a and I mean it could be gospel, it could be R&B, it could be
Mm.
hip hop. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I tend to lean towards R&B because this is an R&B
Yeah, yeah,
podcast, but
yeah. I
I mean
got you.
it could, you know, like and you
I
can
can take it
give
R&B
examples
too.
for whatever.
Yeah.
But what's one of the most ribs is touching songs you've ever heard where like you just
Oh,
felt like that person meant every single
everything they
word
said.
that they
Jeez.
sang, that they rap, whatever it might be.
Um, I'm not gonna say the most rib touching song I've ever heard because I don't think that one exists just yet. Or at least if I've heard it, I've forgotten it and I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
But the
Or at least one.
one, yeah, I got one for you. The
Okay.
one that messed me up, I was driving and I was going through something and it just made me boo hoo. It was BJ the Chicago Kid and Kendrick Lamar. It was kind of like a gospel song, low key. Daggone, I'm trying to remember the name of the song.
I know what song you talking about. I can't think of the name of it either.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It was like one of those one-offs. It didn't.
Hmm.
I don't think it lived anywhere. Ah, man, I'm trying to remember anyway. If I knew the name of the song, but the way BJ sang that song, sang that hook, and it had his piece. It might have been a BJ song, but I think BJ Chicago Kid has a good way of conveying his emotion a
Yes.
great deal on records, no matter what record he's on.
Hmm.
It's there was something to that track where I knew that he had something in the back of his mind that he was singing from. These might be the words on paper, but this ain't what I'm really singing right now. You know what I mean? Like I can't think of the name of the song, and that's gonna kill me. That's gonna kill me. I'm gonna look it up in a second because
Yeah.
I don't want that to get away from me. But that is, I think you know what I'm talking about. If you think
Yeah.
of it before I do, just blurt it out and then be like, oh, okay, got it. That's the song. But right now, that's the one that comes off top that I can think of right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And it's a good one. Like I can't remember the actual name of the song, but I know the
Yeah,
song you're talking about. And
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
His ribs
heavy.
were definitely touching that day.
It's heavy. Like it's like,
Yeah.
yo, what's going on? Like I'm
Yeah.
feeling all of that right now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think if there's another one that I hear every time. Well, this one didn't have so much hunger, but I understood the sentiment. It was Music Soul Child, two of them actually, but we'll go with this one first. So Beautiful. You could tell he meant what he was singing in that.
Yeah.
You could tell he meant what he was saying, and then I Just Want to Sing that whole album.
Oh,
That I need
yeah.
that music back. That's what I need
Yeah.
back. I
We
get the
all need
hustle.
that music back.
The hustle. I understand what you were doing with that. It didn't work, but can we get that music back? I want that guy back. That
Right.
was my guy. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's funny because I was literally just thinking about that album maybe yesterday or the day before because I was telling my son how so I used to be editor at my school's my college newspaper. And
Okay.
so once I stopped being the editor, the same guy that I was co-editor in chief with, he ended up starting a magazine. And so he
Hmm.
asked me to do a music review. And
Gotcha.
I picked Music Soul Child because I
Yes,
love that
sir.
album so much.
Man.
And when I tell you, like, having to sit and like really dissect an album,
Yeah.
having to do that with that album, it made me appreciate it even more.
Oh yeah.
And
It'll
then
definitely
going
make you
back,
do it.
yeah, and then going back and thinking about like where I was when I first heard this song, where I was when I
Mm.
heard that song, the different
Yeah.
emotions that each song made me feel, how much I related to so many of the sentiments on that
Yes.
album, that and the Just Listen album, like
It
both of
just
those
listen to.
albums. Oh my goodness, it's like
Yo,
music
I was
was
in
on
high school.
fire.
Yeah, I was in high school when both of those albums came out, and
Yeah,
yeah, I was just like, what, you could do this? I never really understood neo soul like that. I never really,
yeah,
outside of Erica Badu, I didn't know about neo soul. And then when he
hmm,
came in and took it to another place, almost like a pop R&B lane, and
yeah,
it might be dangerous to say pop on that, but only because it was popular. But hearing them do that, I was like, yo, this is out of here. And then along that line, Flowetry,
yes,
Say
yes,
Yes. That
hmm,
still that ending sign when Marsha, the ending tag when Marsha Ambrosia was doing those runs, but sounded a
yeah.
little suggestive. Like, yo, what's she doing in that booth right now?
Yeah,
I
right, right.
believe, I believe what's happening. I'm like, oh, I'm in college. Listen, like, am I supposed to? I'm in the dorm room by myself, right? Okay, okay. Anybody? Yeah,
She had
yeah.
it. You see. I don't know why all these Ray movie references are coming out, but
Okay.
she had her "Oh Johnny Girl" moment. Remember in
Yes.
Ray?
Oh, Johnny. Yeah, she did, bro. I'm like, yo, whoever the engineer was, I know he was like, hey, all right. Y'all want to take
Right.
five real quick? I need to get some water, some cold water in a second.
Right. I need me a cold shower real quick.
Right, I need to go refresh, and then we can make this happen.
Right.
Oh my
Right. Give me about
goodness.
30 minutes.
Yeah, it's on me. It's on my dollar. Let me give me 30 minutes.
Exactly.
That part, that way. I love it. That's what's up.
Oh man. Yeah, man. But yeah, those are all like really great, like great examples. Like specifically like Music's first album,
Mm-hmm.
Flowetry's first album. Because I mean, that whole
Their whole
first
first
album from
album.
Flowetry was
Yeah.
like a certain hunger
Was
to
it
that
Floetic?
album. Yep, Floetic. Yep.
Floetic,
That
yeah.
was yeah, that album was special right there. Like that's one of
Yeah.
those ones like I still bump to this day. Like it holds up over time. The emotions hold up over time.
Yeah.
The music holds up over time, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
When
man, it's
when it took me a while to get the news that Michael Jackson's Butterfly was actually their song. I didn't know
mm-hmm.
that. And
Yeah,
then because I heard their version, I was like, "Oh, they got on this song." They were like, "Nah." One of my homeboys was like, "Nah, they wrote this song, and Michael Jackson bought it off of them." And I heard them
yeah.
do it. I said, "Oh, yeah, this is their song. This is their song."
Mm-hmm.
Again, Michael, technically proficient. He is a great emotional delivery. He had a great emotional delivery to his songs. But
Yeah.
when it's actually your words and you went through it, you got a
Mm-hmm.
different way of conveying that message. It's just something different. It's
That's
something
right.
different.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And what I loved about what Michael did with it is that, and I feel like I talked about this on another episode about how he delivered those lyrics. Like he didn't really do too much changing of
No,
anything.
no, he didn't.
He got it, he
Yeah,
interpreted it, he internalized it, and he delivered it very similarly to how they did the
very similar
original song. You know what I'm
because he
saying?
didn't
So
need
it
to
was
do too much.
no, no. Like it was, I mean, it
It's
was
perfect.
perfect the way that it was, you know.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think
yeah.
him doing that opened them up to a larger audience because they were
Mhm.
definitely in that, spoken word lane. And to their point, everybody was on spoken word at that time. I was in many slam poetry clubs and many slam teams at that time, and that was the vibe everybody was on. They spit a little poem and then have somebody back up and sing you out. And Michael Jackson exposing Butterflies to a larger audience, let them know that there's a whole community of people that do this, and these two happen to be doing it to a whole nother level,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I love about you unearthing more of your layers in terms of how you communicate. Like you didn't talked about being in gospel choirs. You talked about being a hip hop artist. You've talked about doing slam poetry, like all of these
Yeah,
different languages and ways of communicating, like your love for the arts, your love for music, your love for life. Like
absolutely.
that's so much of what like this series is about in this particular part of the series. And we gonna put a pin in that too because
All
we
right, all
gotta
right.
we gotta come back to the because it's like all of this is like a perfect setup for
Yeah.
like the deeper part of the conversation about love languages and
Okay.
how we communicate love. And I think a lot of times when people may think about coming on the show, they automatically assume like it has to be about relationships, like
Hmm.
romantic relationships. And love, I mean, it's so much broader than that. You know
It
what I'm
really
saying?
is.
So yeah. So like I always like to let people know, like, hey, however you perceive this, that's where we're gonna take the conversation.
Right.
You know what I
No,
mean?
I'm right there with you. Wherever
Yeah.
it's going, we gonna go with it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, this is like great foundation for when we get there. Which
There you
which
go.
won't be long. Which won't be
Yeah.
long.
No,
But
I
I
got you. I got
yeah.
you.
But I definitely because I think sometimes when you are in different regions of the country,
Mm,
there are similarities, but also differences to how you receive
absolutely.
music, and of
For
course the
sure.
personalities, the stations that you listen to,
Oh yeah.
how those things kind of sort of shape how you receive music, how you look, how you view music,
The lens you're looking
especially as
at.
you
Yeah.
go.
It's.
Yeah, exactly, the lens. That's the
Mm-hmm.
perfect. That's actually how I was trying to say it.
I got you. It's all
Yeah,
good,
so,
man.
so that's why I'm glad that you know what I'm saying, we brothers, because it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you should.
I'm gonna adjust the crown a little bit. You good? Now go be great. Now go be great.
I appreciate you, my brother. I
Yes,
appreciate you.
sir.
Yeah. So, you being on the West Coast,
Yeah.
how did you receive music in terms of like the stations that you listen to, like radio
Hmm.
stations, like the different personalities that you tuned into,
Yeah.
um, like how you receive, like say music videos? Because I know
Yeah.
for me, I came up in the video soul era with Donnie Simpson.
Got you.
So that was like one of my main ways of receiving videos. We had something, I don't know if y'all had it in Cali, but we had something
It's
called the
not ringing the
box.
bell. Oh yeah, we had the box. Yeah, we had
Yeah,
the
okay.
box.
So
We had the
boom, there
box.
you go. You know what I'm saying? So like those were the primary ways that we received music, whether it was watching BET, whether
Mm-hmm.
it was watching the box. Like that was
BT.
the primary. Yeah, yeah. Like back when BET
Yeah,
was
yeah.
good.
Yeah, right. No, I'm right there with you. I had a thought that I'm gonna talk on, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, absolutely. So like
Yeah.
for you, like how did you receive music growing up, and how do you feel like that kind of sort of shaped your appreciation of music?
My appreciation for it. Okay, so I to answer the first part of the question, I received music through three stations mainly. It was Power 106, 92.3 The Beat, which took a couple different switches throughout the years. I think now they're at
Mhm.
93.5. And then it was, excuse me, four, KJLH. And the last one was The Wave. Excuse me, 94.7 The
Mhm.
Wave. So KJLH was 102.3. I ended up working there later on in life. But
Mm.
the two, Power 106 and The Beat, Power and The Beat, they were both hip hop and R&B. That's
Mhm.
where I got that insight. Consequently, one of the main DJs, DJ Rafiki, ended up being my DJ later on, me and my manager later on in life
Oh,
when I
that's
first
dope.
got into it. Man, you have no idea how geeked I was when I was like, yo, DJ Rafiki is my man. Yo, you can't tell me nothing. Nothing. The midday drive, you remember that dude? That's the dude who's get off my anyway. So KJLH was more so R&B and gospel,
Yeah.
and that's Stevie Wonder station out here. And full circle, and it's in Inglewood, so I ended up working there for an internship, and then I later became a van driver, and then I became a street team lead slash DJ.
Yeah.
So I have history there. And then the wave was more of like old school soul and like soft ride music. It was the wave. It was like, you know, the stuff you play at the end of the day. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I got most of my new R&B stuff from obviously Power and the Beat.
Yeah.
And that I didn't realize the type of, and this might be going in another direction, but I didn't realize the type of brainwashing that was happening because of payola, because of labels and all that goodness. There was only a certain amount of songs that would play at any given moment. So I
Yeah.
knew songs like the back of my mind, back of my head. I always say that, like the back of my mind. Maybe I'm on to something there. But I knew songs like the back of my hand because they always played the same songs. When it came to music videos, I got that from BET and MTV, TRL, VH1. What else? And then obviously YouTube came about, and I was really a stickler on that. But to the point of discovering new music, that's when late night radio came on. That's when I heard about Eminem. That's when I heard about I think when Beyonce was started coming out as a solo act more so. Who else? I heard music on a late night tip. Music Soul Child on a late night tip, like after midnight when not a lot of people are listening, and they can break new music. And with
Yeah.
videos, talk about BET Uncut. Now, I had another reason I was watching BET Uncut, but as a
Most of us at that time had
hey, you know
another
what I'm
reason
saying?
for
It was the last button on that remote. Like, hey, I'm just watching this educational PBS program, mother was. But consequently, they unveiled a lot of new music too, like Juvenile. That's the you want all them G's on. Like that's the first time I heard that song. So I got I guess my appreciation didn't come until I was able to start collecting and purchasing my own CDs. When we had, you know, the 80 CD fold disc, the case.
Yeah.
And I had my own car, and I can control the station because I was subject to the radio station because my parents knew wasn't no curse words coming in through that. But then when I got my own car and I got my own CD player and I was able to start collecting music, that's when I started having appreciation for stuff that wasn't on the radio, stuff that didn't make the single rollout, that people didn't really talk about. In fact, good story, I didn't become a fan of T-Pain until I heard the song with him and Styles P, I'm High. Never saw the radio station at all. But and the only thing I heard was I'm a stripper, I'm buy you a drink, all that. I was like, this ain't really my cup of tea. I'm cool on the auto-tune thing. Until my homeboy played I'm High. Now I was indulging at the time. So we're in the car having a boxing session, and he plays that song for me. I'm like, yo, what is it? Was simple, but the story he was painting, again, that frequency, you could tell like this really happened. He's sitting in the car choked out with his chick, and they smoked out. Like, oh my goodness, this is really like a real life situation. I connected with it. So my appreciation came when I started to be able to collect my own and pay for my own and actually control my environment. You know, and I could dictate, this is what I'm listening to right now. I don't want to listen to that. I'm listening to this. And I began to have a love for the B-sides of things. And I think that says more so in my music too, that I really enjoy the B-side records more than the A-side.
Yeah.
The A-side is cool. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But the B-side record, that's what the meat and potatoes is. That's what's keeping them lights on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that I look at the A-side as the get 'em to the Greek song. And then the B-side is the Greek.
is the Greek theater. That's why I'm a fan of yours, is because of the B-side. Anybody could listen to the A-side. That's supposed to be for everybody. But the B-side makes me buy a ticket. The B-side makes me come to your show. The B-side makes me get the merch. It's the B-side that at least that's where I feel. Like it's where it connects.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel as well. I mean, you think about some of the greatest singles, it's not always just because of the A-side. Like, I wish it's certain songs that I wish I had a list of like the greatest B-sides ever that people don't even realize were B-sides. But they were so popular that like you just overlook the fact that it was actually
It was
The
actually the
other side
B-side
of
record.
a maiden single.
And I don't know if what age range your audience is listening to, and I'm sure the majority of them are in the same age bracket. But for those who don't know, the A side and the B side, we're not even talking about the single pack that you might be old enough to, y'all might be old enough to know what the single pack is, but I'm talking about the actual Groove 45. Like this side is the main record. The other side, you literally had to flip it over. So A side and B side had a meaning to it.
Yep.
You know, and it translated over into tapes, cassette tapes, and sometimes CDs. But to your point though, like the old CD cases, like when somebody would release a single, they had the main version, the acapella, the radio, and then like the B side would be the record that's like, we'll see if this works.
Right.
And they would just throw it out, you know?
Yeah, they will always have like a minute and a half sample.
Yeah,
of
a sampler.
Song. Yeah. Like I miss those because it's like, especially if the CD wasn't out yet, it's like, okay, this is going to be on the CD. Let's see if you like this.
Right.
And if you like this, then it's like it gives you incentive to go out and actually buy the album. It was smart in a lot of cases.
It was extremely smart.
Yeah.
And really, that's what streaming was supposed to be.
Yeah.
This was,
Yeah. But it was really smart if you pick the right songs to put on the sampler. Because I can't tell you how many times I listened to one of those singles and then you hear like the sample songs and it's like, and if you're anything like me, you got the album. It's like, those the songs you picked as samples?
Yeah.
I hear like 3 other songs I would have picked ahead of
that would have pulled people in. Like, that wasn't
Right.
the one to pick, man. Like this would have sold me better. But I mean, it did work because you wouldn't get the album though. So maybe
exactly.
Yeah, it worked in essence. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Once again, get them to the Greek. You know.
Yeah, there you go. Get them. I still love that movie, man. To get them to that's one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite movies. The unedited raw version. Love it.
Yeah. Oh man, it's great. It's great.
Hey, I'll put it this way. Hey, look, Diddy, his portrayal of himself quintessentially in the movie.
Right.
It's very accurate. It's very accurate.
Very accurate. A little too accurate.
Do you feel me in your mind right now? I hope you have a condom on because I have a pretty dirty mind. Yo, Jonas was dope, man. Anyway, I don't want to get too far off.
What's so funny is that now, like when you hear that or you watch that, it's not aging well for him.
It's not at all.
It's not aging
It's not at all. Do you know how many Jordan 6 black kids wear? All right, man. I can deviate forever. Let me stop.
No, it's all good. But hey, look, I'm here for those kind of like little quick sidebars, man.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like that's what keeps the podcast interesting because you know people are gonna be in the comments like, man, I remember that, and like they'll agree.
Exactly. Speaking of which, have you been to the Greek Theater out here?
I have not.
So
I've never even been to Cali.
Ooh, okay. So this is good. So as you were talking about the lens in which you're looking at, you're listening to music and the lens in which you're watching these things. So the best example I could give is when Baby Boy came out. Baby Boy came out. I grew up around that area. That's right across the street, the liquor bank. That's right across the street from the Crenshaw Mall. It's not too far from where Nipsey was. It's not too far from where Inglewood is, being about 5 miles away from Inglewood. But watching that movie, especially in the theater when it first came out, at Magic Johnson Theater, which is not too far from where they shot it, is a blood neighborhood.
Okay.
If you remember well, maybe, I don't think they talked about it. We just knew. And that's another thing. We just know certain things. Like watching that, he was supposed to be in the Crip neighborhood. Like he was supposed to be a Crip and affiliated with that. So when we're watching it in that theater, a bunch of Bloods just stormed into the theater and was looking for folk because it was heavy Crip influence. So they're looking for issues in the Magic Johnson Theater. That's in the middle of a Blood neighborhood. Anyway, watching that movie, it's like, oh, I know that block. Oh, I know that. For you, it's like watching it be like, oh wow, this is interesting. This is a story. This is like a Wednesday for us. Same thing with like Boys in the Hood, but then taking it to the Greek theater, I know what the Greek amphitheater is like. I know what traversing LA is like. So Diddy's character, even though it's not aging well for him, that's really how them Hollywood types are acting. It's like, how can I get over on you, but still make you feel as though I'm your friend. Like it's the
Mm,
everything they were talking about in that scene, in that whole movie, definitely lends itself to the greater narrative that is Los Angeles, and that's why a lot of people when they
mm,
get here, when my brother first moved here from Cleveland, I was trying to tell him like, hey, get you a car, have a plan, because when you get here and you're trying to moving, that is, and you get here and
yeah,
you don't have a way about moving, you can't rely on public transportation like you would any place else. It sucks out here. Public
yeah.
transport sucks. Have your own vehicle.
Hmm.
Know what job you got lined up before you get here. Have a place in mind. You might not make it like that, but if you don't, that's why a lot of people come here and they fall flat on their face because they don't realize they didn't get with the locals. But the lens of watching like Get Him to the Greek, watching Baby Boy, watching any other LA based movie, it's something different for us because like yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
That's not Hollywood at all. Now the people
yeah.
acting in it, Tyrese, he's from Watts, so the fact that he couldn't play a LA dude too well to save his life was funny to me.
That's sad.
That was funny. He did well. He did well. He just
Yeah,
like, yo, you from Watts. Like, come on, man. This is not how y'all get down.
yeah.
That's a whole nother nuanced situation. But it does shape the way we listen to other people's music because we got that type of stuff going on in the background. And when other people are talking about their own hood situations, that's our lens that we're looking at. So when I go out to like a Midwest like I did for college and I'm hearing these hood songs, I'm like, this don't look at all like, because in comparison, Los Angeles hood looks like it, high sedity. It looks highfalutin. When I went to
Yeah.
the Ohio or even in DC, like some of those spots, like, oh, this is your hood. I'm a little scared. This
Yeah.
ain't this ain't it. This ain't it. I feel like I'm gonna get jacked just looking at the sidewalk. This ain't it.
Which is hilarious because I never forget one time I had some friends come down. This was like 2003. They
Uh,
came down and they saw like our projects or whatever. Like, and
right.
this is in Southeast. This is
Ooh.
still when, anybody that's from Southeast that may be watching, Stanton dwellings was still a thing. Like,
Okay.
you talking about like the heart of the hood of Southeast where nobody wants to come.
Okay.
And like they saw the projects like, these y'all projects? Like, these look nice by comparison. And it's like you kind of
Right.
sort of understand it when you got these big tall projects where like the
Yeah.
elevators, they might or might not work. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You might find a blood stain in the bottom of the
See.
elevator real quick that might not have been
Right.
cleaned up all the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I done
See.
been to New York projects. I'm like, it's a big difference.
It's a difference, and I understand that till I went to New York and I saw that and saw the projects and how tall they stood and really how they got them stacked on top of each other in little matchboxes. Because our projects
Mhm.
out here, if you watch any J Rock video or the Nickerson's projects, or you look at old footage of K Dot when he's rapping in the project, that's what our projects
Mhm.
look like. It looks like a huge courtyard.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is actually kind of breathable, but for us, it's like, yo, it ain't breathable. Like you're in firing range, you're in territory,
Right.
but
Right.
the optics is like, in comparison, like, oh, this is we should not be complaining about how it look out here. It looks straight.
Hmm.
Our price
Yeah.
of living is high for a reason. I see.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's even our hoods look good. What?
Yeah.
How does that work? Jeez.
Yeah. 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 And that's actually, see, we've been setting it up the whole conversation.
The whole way. The
That's
whole way.
actually a perfect segue
Mm.
into love languages,
Yes, sir.
because we talked about relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the different ways that you communicate artistically, creatively.
Yeah.
We talked about the different types of music that speak to you in a certain way. And
Okay.
we've even talked about where you're from
Yeah.
and how that kind of sort of shapes the way that you look at things, how you look at the world.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about all of those things kind of sort of thrown into this pot, you know what I'm saying, this gumbo pot.
Yeah.
How do you think that has shaped the way that you view love and how you
Mm.
communicate love? And it could be
Gotcha.
whatever type of love. It could be
Yeah.
romantic love, it could be brotherly love, it could be, love of God,
Yeah.
whatever type of love, all of the above.
All
Like,
the
how do
love.
you feel like all of those things have shaped your way of how you communicate love and how you receive it?
I think the receiving both of those is a heavy one to not. It's not heavy, but these are great questions. It is a little heavy. So the way I was raised versus what I experienced outside of my home versus actually going through those experiences, all have shaped the way I talk with people, the way I expect to be talked to, and the way I go about my day to day, and really starting in the house. So my parents first, they're transplants. My dad is from St. Louis. My mom is from North Avondale in Cincinnati, Ohio. So they have their own different lenses that they and my dad's from East Side St. Louis. Excuse me, I meant to say that. But they have their own lenses that they look through, and their own experiences. And then when they come together and they form me and my brothers, we have now their experiences, or at least their lessons, because we don't have their experiences. We have their lessons from their experiences to go off of. And then when we go outside, it becomes, how do I want to receive? Now, at first, I was very shy. I didn't talk to a lot of people, and I had to learn to be outspoken. But I also learned through my shyness that people don't respect that too much. It's cute in the beginning, but when you don't know how to articulate what it is you want, especially out here, taking it back to the land in which I grew up in, they will take advantage of that. They will definitely, certainly, like, okay, you won't speak up for yourself. Well, you won't mind if I move out of the way. I'm gonna handle this. You got to speak up a little bit more, especially when in the gang culture that I'm not affiliated with anybody. Let me say that before I say this. But I grew up in a lot of gang activity areas, and you had to know how to assert yourself, because that question, you saw it on Rhythm and Flow with Smoke, where Snoop Dogg was like, "Hey, where you from?" And he was like, "Inglewood." And then he said, like, no, where you from? That whole transaction was it's a real conversation. You saw it shift. It's a gang type of question. Now, where you from, homie? Like, it's that type of issue happens on a regular basis. And it wasn't until I learned to say, I don't bang, with confidence, that I learned, okay, I need to carry myself a certain way. Not so much I'm with the business, but you're not gonna punk me on some like where you from type, because I'm not. I'm not on it. I know you with it. Let's respect each other's boundaries. And then when it comes to that's just day to day, everybody. Friendships, LA, despite what it looks like in media, it's very small, especially Black LA. So when you hear like Frank Ocean talk about Black Beverly Hills, that's Ladera Heights. That's a real space, but that's not but 5 miles away, not even 2 miles away from Inglewood. That's not but 5 or 6 miles away from the Crenshaw district. It's not really that far from Long Beach. It's really small. So you learn how you want to. You're gonna run into somebody. If you said something wrong about somebody else, they're gonna find out, and you're gonna have to deal with that issue when it comes about. So I learned, like, okay, I'm gonna talk to people how I want to be talked to, treat them with the same type of respect. Of course, I've fallen short a few different times, and I had to, get my issue. But at the same time, I learned, like, I need to speak with a type of compassion and deal with people with a type of compassion, because you never know what somebody's going through. Especially, like I said, going back to the gang culture, you know how to put that poker face on real quick. So what somebody tells you and what they're actually going through it might be two completely different things. So you have to consider that when you talk with people. And then when it comes to the love aspect, it's so we're hearing it a lot in social media where like, what do you bring into the table? While that narrative is relatively new, what do you bring to the table? What am I bringing to the table? It's not about that. It's not that new. It just looks different now. Now we got social media and podcast platforms for people to talk on and just elevate, amplify what they're saying. But these conversations are not new. It's always been about, well, you ain't doing this for me. Well, you ain't doing that for me. I learned through, especially when I talk about my wife and finding my wife, it made more sense to not worry about what the other person has, worry about what the other person is bringing. If I have an expectation of them, that expectation for damn sure better be on me first. Can I provide for myself? Can I make
Hmm.
sure I'm happy and satisfied? Can I make sure I am a whole person? Because if
Yeah.
I expect that other person to be whole, why am I expect? It's like being overweight and expecting like, oh, I need somebody fit and in shape and tall. Like, wait a minute, you 4'7" and you well overweight.
Yeah.
Where's the love for yourself? I'm not saying that you don't love yourself if you like that, but at the same time, if you have that expectation of your partner and you're not having the same expectation for yourself, there is a disconnect and there's no way a love is going to actually work because you clearly don't love yourself. So that's
Yeah.
what I've learned through all of my in and outs when it comes to the love language. And I love that you say that because that's another hot button issue. Because love language, as the five love languages, they have
Hmm.
merit, they have basis, and I agree with them. But when you
Yeah.
start, it goes back to knowing yourself and knowing who you're with. Because I can know my love language, and if I only speak in my love language, well, then I only get love.
Hmm.
If I'm with my partner and I know what their love language is, for them to understand what I'm saying, I need to speak in their language. So
Hmm.
my wife is on acts of service. I'm on I think it's on touch now. She acts of service is hers. So and what's the other one where you're verbal, like affirmations? I think
Oh,
that's what
words
it
of
was.
affirmation. Yeah. Hmm.
Words of affirmation. So I'm also words of affirmation, but that's not as high up on my list. But if I am treating her with the same, like if my highest one is touch, if I'm doing all day touching and that's not what her highest priority is, well then there's a disconnect. She's not understanding that I'm loving her.
Yeah.
But if I talk with her language in mind, and then she learns to speak my language, then we could talk about what the other is doing for me. But first, you got to make sure that what you got to set and you understand who you are first.
Hmm.
I know I gave a whole mouthful on that. Yeah,
Oh, no,
that's
no, no, no.
yeah,
This is good. This is, I mean, fantastic, because I love how you navigated through all of them,
yeah,
because I'm the type, when it came to this whole love language thing, because as I think I may have told you,
mm,
and as the audience may or may not know, like, a lot of these conversations are based around song titles
absolutely,
for my R&B project, R&B
yes, sir.
instrumental project. And so the song is called Fluent in My Language. And so it just
Gotcha.
immediately made me think of not just love languages, but what's interesting is, at around the same time that the five love languages became a thing,
Yeah.
also what became a thing was Rosetta Stone. And
Ah,
yeah, like right
nice,
around the same time, it's like the
nice.
early 90s, like both of these things
Yeah,
became a thing.
it's a nice
And
correlation
so,
right there. I wonder if
yeah,
that was an accident. Rosetta
well,
Stone learned how to speak different languages and love languages, knowing how to communicate in other
it
people's love
was.
languages.
It
Okay,
was.
hey, I think that was calculated for sure. That's a
it
chess
was
move
it
with a
was
checker piece.
it was just one of those things that, like, God just lined up the way that he lined it up, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because the thing is, like, the song itself, like, is inspired by a certain era of
Okay.
R&B. And
Gotcha.
then these two things become so popular and ingrained in culture that
Mm.
it's like, like, they become references to so many things. I mean, how many times have we heard Rosetta Stone be referenced in a
Oh,
rap song?
I've
You know
used it
what I'm
so many
saying?
times in a rap. And it's only in one rap song of mine, but I don't even think it's out yet. But I've used it in countless freestyles and
Yeah.
countless little Rosetta.
Yeah.
It gets the point across well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's like you have to be able to, when it comes to translation
Mm.
and things either being translated well, being lost in translation, the
Yeah.
key thing is, like, not only should you be able to speak your own language well, but be able to interpret somebody else's language and give them exactly what they need. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Based on what their language is. Because if you
Yeah.
it's like dealing with somebody and you speak English, they speak French.
Oh yeah.
And you just expect them to just understand your side of the
Yeah.
language barrier, but you
Hmm.
never try to make the effort to understand their side of it and
Ooh.
what they may need and how you can meet in the middle, so each person gets exactly what they need out of that communication, so that there can be a meeting in the middle somewhere, because that's
Right.
really what it's all about. It's like you meet in the middle. Like, I don't want to say sacrifice, because whenever I think about the word sacrifice, I think of loss. You're not really losing
I get
anything.
that. I get
You're
that.
gaining something. you know what I'm saying, in the process
Right.
of learning somebody else's love language, but also teaching that person your love language as well,
Yeah.
whatever it might be, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But what I wanted to kind of unpack a little bit more when
Okay.
you said like one your highest love language is
Mhm.
physical touch, because
Right.
in another conversation I've had, that was that person's highest love language earlier in their
Mhm.
life, but it's
Right.
still one of their higher love languages, but it's kind of sort of evolved.
It shifts.
So yeah, exactly. So for you, um because sometimes people will hear that and they'll think the obvious, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Right. Right.
but physical touch doesn't always have to necessarily be the obvious when it comes to how you express love or how you
Right.
communicate love. So for you, what does
Mhm.
that look like?
So, great question, because that was something that I initially thought when I first heard about the love languages, and I heard physical touch. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Go ahead and touch upon me. But while that might be on the table, it's not so much just the end all be all. Once we've reached that destination, well, then you can stop touching me. It's in the middle of the night when I'm mixing a record and my wife comes and just rubs my shoulders,
Mm,
or I am having a bad day and she just comes and hugs me from the back,
mhm.
or we holding hands as I'm driving,
Yeah.
or I got my arm around her as we're walking. It's not like exerting dominance, like, I don't want nobody else looking. It's like, nah, I like that she's touching me. I like that she has her
Mm,
arm around me. It's that different type of embrace. It's like your mom giving you a hug when you've fell down and scraped your knee. It's like, okay, this
yeah.
this makes my knee feel better.
Yeah.
Just this, my mom kissed my boo boo. All that made it feel better. We know it really didn't, but it's something about that touch. It's just like, oh man, I feel empowered. I feel like somebody cares about me. So
Yeah.
the physical touch. So to that point, it doesn't just stop there with romance either. It's also when I see my homeboy I ain't
Mhm.
seen in a while, we tap, come in with the hug. It's like,
Yeah.
how you doing? Or like if I'm having a funny moment and I can lean over and hit my man on the shoulder, like, hey, you remember when,
Yeah.
those type of, like, just that physical connection, like, yeah. Cause then on the opposite, when I don't know you, hey, what's happening, my G?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't get that close on my, like, I don't know you that well. Like, we not gonna
Right.
touch like that. If I
Yeah.
feel that connection with you, oh man, all love. We'll dap up, we'll come in close. I ain't about to hug you, but we'll come in close. But
Right.
it's like the touch factor is both an attractant and a repellent for those who
Mm.
have the
Mm.
touch as the highest love language. Because if you touch me and I don't know you, well, now we about to touch in a different way. You ain't gonna like where you end up after we done.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
I think it is more than just the obvious, final destination arrival, if you will. I'm gonna let people's mind roam with that one. It's more so that connection that forms when it's skin to skin, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, man, like when I say that is a top tier response to what I was going for, like
Yeah,
when you took it to the level of talking about, and that opens up a whole nother conversation in terms of love and how you express love, how you receive love.
mm,
When you get into the friendship aspect, especially when it comes to us as men,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm the same way. Like I'm very much adapt oriented. Like if I'm really close to you, yeah, I like give you, like, it ain't just dap, it's a
it's
full
a
on hug.
tap and
You know what I'm
we coming
saying?
in for the hug. Yeah,
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's certain people, like I don't even give them the tap or what, it's like
yeah, oh
like that
yeah,
type of
already,
hug.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if
No,
I
come in
but
for the
I
bear
have
hug. It is
right,
what it is.
exactly. But I still have to have a certain level of closeness or affinity to you.
Yeah,
I don't do it with everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure
can't.
you the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I love
Absolutely.
what and I love what you said in terms of how really anything, like whether you talking physical touch, whether you talking words of affirmation, acts of service,
Yeah.
receiving gifts,
That
and
part.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of the other one. It's
Words of
escaping me.
affirmation, touch, receiving gifts.
Yes.
You said
Let me
acts
see.
of service. Did I say that
Yeah,
already?
we said
Yeah.
acts of service. Why can't I think of the like I normally know these off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I can't
I
think of the
don't
fifth
know.
one.
I only know mine and my wife's, unfortunately.
Was the most important ones.
Those are the most important ones in my book.
Yeah.
She's the one that puts me up on all the new, because she's in education and they have to
Right.
go through.
Quality time.
That is actually
That's
up
the
there on
fifth one.
mine. That was
Yeah.
second on my list. Quality time.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it
Okay.
was. So I misspoke earlier. I said it was touch, quality time, and words of affirmation. For
Okay.
my wife, it
Okay.
was acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time was third for hers.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
our arrangement was a little. It was close, but there were
Mhm.
a couple subtle differences. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good place to kind of sort of unpack a little bit more too, because
Hmm.
the first before we unpack that part of it, I wanted to ask you, how do you make sure that you, knowing that your wife's highest one is acts of service, how has that challenged you in certain ways to speak her love language in a way
Hmm.
that like she really feels supported, she feels loved?
So I'm glad you asked that, because it's not just what I think is a service. It really goes
Mhm.
back into it goes into their
Yes.
values and the lens in which they
Yes.
grew up in. So
Hmm.
like a service for me would be like, I left my shoes in the middle of the floor, and then she comes and picks them up and put it in my room. I wouldn't appreciate that as much as it would be if she picked up my shoes, put them in the room, and scrubbed them up, or so going along those lines. But for
Hmm.
me, that's what it looks like. For her, it's um, handling something that she was probably going to handle earlier, but then doing it before she even realizes it got done. Um,
Mm.
it's it's things that she values,
Yeah.
not what I value, and it
Right.
goes back into it. Like, what lens are you looking from? So I
Hmm.
hear acts of service, or just like you mentioned with touch. Like if somebody whose highest form is touch, for the non-initiated, they'll go, "Oh, okay, well I'm just going ahead and help him out real quick, get him where he needs to go." Nah, that's not just it. Like that is it, but it's not just it.
Right.
Like there's more to it.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what type of values they have or what type of service they need, well then your act of seeming service can fall on deaf ears, and then now
Mhm.
she still doesn't feel like you've given her any service. It's just
Yeah.
like, okay, well you did that, that's nice, I didn't ask you to do that, as opposed to, oh my god, you did that, I didn't ask you to do that, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if they recognize it as an act of service. If they don't, well you got to figure that thing out,
Right. Yeah.
or
And
have those
and you
conversations.
and you said the key thing, like it has to be what acts of service means to her. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like
absolutely.
how it's going to resonate the most to her.
Yeah.
Because it's once again going back to the whole language barrier thing. You
Yeah.
could you could say one thing one way, but if you don't say it in a way that really, I mean, you could go there with language, you could go there even with rap, what we do. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Oh
Like it's
man.
it's a it's a huge difference between, and it goes right back to what you said.
Yeah.
It's not just the technical proficiency. It's not how well you put, certain words together and similes and
Yeah.
metaphors and all
It's
of
the
these
intention
different.
behind it.
It's the intention behind it. Exactly. It's the intention, it's the emotion, it's the sincerity
Yeah.
of all of that, you know.
Absolutely.
And
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 I
and, and
go ahead.
the attention to detail.
And we got to be meticulous. Ah,
That's exactly. You
had to
see
do
what
it.
I did there.
Yeah, I see what you did. I didn't even give you the intro. We had this long conversation for an hour. I didn't even give you the intro yet. I'm gonna do that before we go. But one thing I was gonna say, it's the one thing that you brought up, the place in which you're operating from, making damn, I had it and I just messed I messed myself up doing the meticulous thing. Damn.
It's all good.
Nah, it's keep going what you're doing. I think it's gonna hit me again. It's gonna hit me again.
Yeah, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So I wanted to circle back to actually two things, but I'm gonna circle back since we're still on
Mhm.
the relationship you have with your wife, and
Yeah.
like how a lot of y'all love languages align, even though they
Yeah.
might be in different orders or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
How do you think that makes how well you all gel with one another? Like, how do you think that really affects how well you gel with one another, considering that you have some
Mm.
love languages in common?
So we have some love languages in common, but because they're in different orders of priority, it also shapes what we prioritize. And I think knowing your love language is half the battle, but understanding your partner's love language, because it's a test that you take and you find out yours. Okay, I know mine. Okay, obviously I identified it. Oh, okay, that's my love language. Cool. You're already operating in that, so you just now have a name for it. But
Right.
understanding what your partner's priorities are in love language is a key factor, because if I just looked at her list and said, "Oh, okay, we both got touch. Okay, cool, I'm good." No, her touch is way down there. So if for her touch is here, mine is here, well, how can we get that in the middle? Because they're not gonna necessarily, we're never gonna shift priorities. They might later on in life, but when her shifts, mine's also gonna shift. So it's understanding where the priority of that love language is, and then what does that mean for them. Just like going back to the acts of service, it's like I could give you a service, but if you don't recognize it as service, then it's never gonna land for you. I'm just kind of spinning my wheels in the snow. But if we communicate and talk on a regular basis to get a better footing, I think then we can better communicate. And it's rocky. It is not easy. It's not, because you've been you for however many years you were before y'all met.
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time. We were 23 and 24. No, 23 when we first met. There were 23 years of living without knowing who this person was before they existed, before I found out they existed. That's 23 years of shape. That's 23 years of bad habits. That's 23 years of selfish paying attention to myself. And then wherever we start the severity of a relationship and I decide like you are the person I'm going to be with, then I have to learn what it means to share my existence with somebody else. And I don't think people really understand what it means to share your existence.
That's right.
When you're in your house by yourself, those little habits that you have that you didn't pay attention to before somebody moved in. Ooh, I kind of pass gas all the time. I don't even realize that. Ooh, I leave my socks in places. I know I'm going to pick it up, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of communication that we have with myself in my mind, but I now have to articulate outside of myself. And that's uncomfortable. That is really uncomfortable. Certainly for me, when I got to communicate as an artist, as an MC, like I got to tell you what I'm thinking about before I even figured out to write it down, before I got a chance to work through it. That's uncomfortable as hell. But those are the conversations I gotta have. Otherwise, she's just kind of trying to figure out what's going on my end, and vice versa. Like, what is going on in your mind that you're comfortable telling me? Are we comfortable enough to even talk about what's really on my mind? Like, what's on your mind? Man, I didn't like the way you didn't do this the other day. I didn't like that decision you made. Well, I didn't know at the time. I know at the time it didn't bother me, but it's bothering me right now. I didn't like how whatever you, and it's not a matter of like, you need to change this. It's just really articulating what it is I didn't like. Yeah. If we are a partner, if we are in this partnership and I care about your comfortability, I care about who you are as a person, I can then assess, all right, you told me you don't like it. What do I do with that information? Is it going to kill me to change it? Does it mess up who I am as I know myself to change it? Will it make me a better person if I change it? Is this, I know you understand this one. Is this even worth an argument? Is this even, which battle am I about to pick?
Right.
Okay, I didn't take out the trash. You could have let me know it was filling up as opposed to yelling at me when it was stinking. Okay, is this really it? No, let me just take it out.
Man, don't, man. You about to open up a can of worms with that one. Don't do it. Don't do it.
But it's those little things. It's those little things that end up, and me and my wife talk about this all the time. It's like, if there's something I do that you don't like, tell me immediately. Because what ends up happening is you don't say anything, and I'm going to keep on doing it. So those little things end up amounting to this big thing, and then by the time you blow up on me, I'm going to blow back up on you, because what the hell you yelling at?
Yeah.
Well, you keep doing this. I had no idea that bothered you.
Yeah.
Now I'm blowing up at you because you blowing up at me about some stuff I didn't even know I was guilty of. It's those little communicative things that we need to articulate that just make things a little bit smoother. Again, it's easier said than done. You have to
Yeah.
go through it before you even realize, oh, this is a problem.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
let me say this to you. It's uncomfortable to say it right now because I don't want to make you feel bad, but if I gotta make you feel bad for a little bit in the moment, at least we could figure out how it don't feel bad 6 months from now, 6 years from now, 16 years from now. You know, it's those little things that happen. So I deviate a lot, but I think it still lends to the conversation as far as like understanding the priority.
Yes.
I gotta know what your priorities look like and how real those priorities are, because the list, when you first take the test or you first read the book and you go through it, you can say like, oh, I'm this, until you realize like, okay, you are this, but this is a little higher. Oh, I don't even think you realize that. Okay, well, let me adjust a little bit. What does that look like? And then those uncomfortable conversations has to happen.
Absolutely.
Has to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. Like I think if more people approached every relationship like that,
Every relationship.
because that's actually a perfect segue into one of my last questions. So
Okay.
in terms of tips, because I want to kind of circle back around to what you were saying in terms of like your love language of physical touch and how it even affects the way you interact with other men. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And not, not in, of course, not in certain ways, but like still,
I'm not that
like,
way. So if somebody else is out there, if you like touching men, that's
right.
what you do.
Right, exactly. But in the ways that you describe, but connecting that to what you were saying in terms of understanding priorities when it comes to, your wife's love language.
Yeah.
How do you think understanding somebody's love language in friendship would raise the level of how you relate to that person?
You know, I never really, until this moment, I've never really considered my friends, my good friends, my long-term friends relationship, in terms of their love language. I think in that sense, because a lot of my friends are childhood friends, and we got to watch each other and observe each other and know what their buttons are from trial and error, and it's decades of experience.
Yeah.
But if I understood that, if we all sat down and just really communicated and understood what each other's love languages were, one, I think it'll give us a better understanding of who we are as men and how we can better encourage each other, better be a better support system for each other. You sent me a post the other day, which was like if it was two guys working on a product, and it was just like, hey, if you want to see your brother win, I don't think enough of us want to see each other win.
Yeah.
And I think it starts with understanding what the love language is. If I find out one of my friends' love languages is words of affirmation, and I've never given them enough words of affirmation, but now they have since turned their words of affirmation of secret hate. You know what I mean? Because it can go the other way around. If my love language is words of affirmation and I'm not getting it, well, my words of affirmation now become hate after a while. Like, well, you ain't gonna do it. That's enough. You know, it's
Yeah.
you know, like it starts to turn on each other. If we know what your love language is, okay, well, bet. If I talk to you this way, if I treat you like this, if I do this for you, you'll know that I want to see you win at the end of the day. And I think I think a lot of men fail to realize we don't want to be the one that loses. I don't want to lose. If I'm standing next to my friend and they're winning, I don't want to lose. And then we all think winning is having the big house, having the big land, having a lot of money. That's not everybody's definition of winning. Again, going back to the love language, sometimes winning is just, hey, my bills are paid, my wife is good, my partner is good, my kids are fed, I was able to go to the gym today. That is winning for some people. And I mean the absolute height of it. I'll be honest, I didn't really give that a whole lot of respect until I got older. Because a lot of my in fact, two cats that I was rhyming with, their definition of winning, lost dialect for those who don't know, their definitions of winning were different from mine. So when we didn't share the same definition, I started to look at them different. Again, those words of
Mm,
affirmation or that touch relationship, because we touch in sense of we weren't touching on the same page.
right.
That it was like, what do you mean you want to do this? No, we said we want to get signed. We want to go on a tour. We want to go and record music with these huge people, and then that didn't happen. And they're like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm losing my mind, and they just like, oh yeah, I'm finally married now. That wasn't high on my list at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I understood what their definitions were, if I understood what their love languages were, I think we would really begin to see the relationship between men. And I'm gonna be real keen on this point as far as men go, because we have a hard time with this. It's being willing to adjust to your way you receive love. Because
Yes.
we got this whole like misunderstanding, no diddy with it. Like, they're trying to like, nah, man, that's gay. Like, what? That the whole
Right.
first off, the whole thing of, I like the term no diddy instead of pause, and I'll explain that later. But pause, I don't like that term because
Yeah.
it diminishes a beautiful sentiment because you think it's gay.
Right.
No,
Oof. Come on now. Talk about it.
no, I
Yeah.
love you. No, pause.
Yeah.
What? Okay, what's going on in your mind that you think love means I'm trying to bend you over?
Right.
Because I wasn't thinking that way until you
Right.
said pause. Now, when I
Right.
say, if somebody says no diddy, I like that one because that's like underhanded snake. I didn't know you was like that for real. That's why I like that one better than pause. And I'm adopting that. You're getting exclusive. I'm adopting that publicly. No diddy. But to that point though, like, I think we as men, like, we're scared to lose our masculinity for sake of somebody assuming we are feminine. To have masculinity means to have some femininity. You can't, if you're all masculine, nobody wants to be around you because you like, what? You stink.
Right. Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you stink. People with feminine energy, I like. Come on, man, you smell good. That's
Right.
that's good. I like good smells around me. I don't want
That's
to
right.
smell corn chips and feet all day. You know what I mean? So I think learning what your partner's love language is, learning how your man's understands that I care about you and this is how I care about you. Okay, I don't understand it that way. I understand it like this. Got you. All right, I just got to give you a dap a little bit more often. Or I got to
Yeah.
tell you winning a little bit more often. Or I got to
Yeah.
I got to spend some time with you. We'll go play some hoops or we'll go to the bar or however that looks for you. Let me do that so you understand I want to see you win.
Right. Right. Yeah. And man, like when I say this, these are the type of conversations that we need more of. And this is also the type of conversation that I wanted to have more of with this particular platform. Because
Okay.
when we think about, that's why I asked the question, because that's,
Yeah.
I don't hear that question get asked when it
Yeah.
comes to love languages and how
And
they
friendships.
translate beyond romantic
Man.
relationships. You know
Because
what I'm
we
saying?
only think
Especially when
about
it
them
comes
in
to us as men.
romance. Yeah, we
Right.
only think about them in romance, and that's not
Yeah.
the only place you find love. And like you said, for men specifically, it's important for us to have more of these conversations because I hate to say it this way, but we're kind of victims of our father's generation. We're victims of that of that mentality getting pushed down, and I don't want to say victims because that's a little too harsh, but I know my dad was doing better than his dad.
Yep.
And he told me this, like, the way I'm treating you is better than what my dad treated me. So it's on us, the next generation, to show the generation behind us and our kids that you can do it better.
Yes.
You can be this. And now they're gonna be them old heads that's like, boy, that's soft. That ain't like, all right, cool. But now you got what, gout because you holding on to this animosity. You got stuff wrong with your liver because you really holding in all them toxins. And I'm not being facetious when I say these things. Like, negative energy has real implication on your health, your physical existence here on this plane. Like, if you carry all that negativity, all that toxicity, it turns up being toxic on your person, and you will not be around to share anything with anybody for as long as you think you will.
Yeah. Agreed.
know.
Agreed. Yeah. What's interesting about you saying what you saying is that I don't know if you ever watched the show A Million Little Things on ABC.
I haven't.
So it was a show where it originally the show started off where the one of the main characters he committed suicide at the
Ooh,
beginning of the show.
ooh.
And so what's crazy about the whole situation is one of the main characters, I think is Romany Malco
Okay.
on the show. Romany Malco, he played in 40-year-old virgin. He was a
The
dude going
black
back and
dude with the
forth with
bald
Kevin
head.
Hart. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
dude funny as
yes.
hell to me.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? That scene with Kevin Hart is legendary.
Oh my
That
god.
movie.
Let's move forward amicably. You saying all these big words right now, and I don't know what they mean, so I'm gonna take them as a form of disrespect. Help me with this sale.
Watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth and help me with this sale. Oh, you wanted it? I ain't gonna cuss on your platform. I think you want to use it across the board. So go ahead.
Man, like you got me wanting to watch the movie now just for that.
Oh, I gotta
scene.
watch it. I gotta watch it. And that's the unedited version, by the way, because I saw
Yes.
it not too long ago, and I was missing the
Right.
both of you. I didn't see that part. And I was like, what happened? Oh, I watched the unedited version first.
It's gotta be the uncut version. It's gotta
Always.
be. If
At all
it's not
times.
that, it don't count.
That part. That way.
Yeah, man. But his character in A
Yes.
Million Little Things, he was affected by his friend committing suicide because that
Yeah.
same morning that he found out his friend committed suicide, he was about to commit suicide. He was
Wow.
about to down a whole bunch of pills.
Oof.
And it ended up being a thing where like that stopped him from doing it. So
Yeah.
how it connects to what you were saying in terms of the differences in the generations and how they express love to
Mm-hmm.
one another is that he felt like for a long time his dad, like he felt like there was kind of sort of a barrier between
Yeah.
them because he felt like his dad like held on to certain things and didn't talk about certain things, and it
Right.
started manifesting itself. I think his dad ended up having like maybe Alzheimer's
Whew.
throughout the course of the show.
That's a
And
difficult one
so
too.
yeah. But I think a lot of like what you said in terms of like holding on to certain energy, it
Mm-hmm.
affects you a certain way. And so
Absolutely.
versus holding on to that energy, I think, our generations are starting to really learn how those things affected our fathers, their
Yeah.
fathers before them. And it's like, yeah, we don't want that smoke. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like
Yeah.
we go to therapy, we talk about, what's going on with us. We try to
Right.
like make sure that we do a self-check all the way around. And
Right.
that starts with, how we love ourselves, how we understand, how we communicate it, how we receive it, and really just kind of sort of breaking down those barriers. So the main
Mm-hmm.
reason I, mentioned that was because throughout the course of the show, I think the show ran either 5 or 6 seasons, but by the
Okay.
end of the show, you see his dad starting to soften up a little bit
Yeah.
because he's realizing how like that was affecting their relationship for years because
Yes.
they didn't understand each other's love language. You know
Ooh,
what I'm
I
saying?
like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So
I was gonna say,
that's why.
no, I was gonna say to
Oh
that
no,
point.
you got it. Yeah.
Got you. So to that point, my I don't want to leave it how I said like we're trying to do better than our father's generation because we are, but I've to that point of the father softening up. My dad has done a great job softening even more. When I was young, he was so focused on his goals, so focused on making sure me and my brothers were taken care of. A point which I knew as a kid, I understood that 100%. I often tease him. He was like, "Man, I was at every football game." I said, "No, you weren't." And he's like, "Yes, I was." Like, "You weren't." And I try to tell him like, "I'm not mad that you weren't." I one too many boys in my neighborhood that could say they had both parents. Father, nonetheless, a continual father in the home. I happen to know where my dad was every night. He might not have been home. He was out working. He was working late. So when you don't come to a football game, I'm not sweating. I'm not sweating it. I got kids on my team right now that don't know they have one.
Right.
I know where my dad is. So, but I just wanted to make a point to say my pops was very much so strict, so focused on his goals that he often became cold sometimes. And for me, that was difficult because I have his name, top to bottom. I have it, and everybody, and I look just like him. So when everybody asks, "How's your dad doing?" and I'm thinking like, "Oh man, he's cold as hell to me," and I got to act and put on his front. But over the years, I think even he's understanding that in this day and age, in this modern blooming of manhood, if you will, that you kind of got to be a little bit more expressive. You're going to have to
Yeah.
show a little bit more emotion so that I understand what it means to be tough. Because if I
Yes.
don't have any counterpoint to, oh yeah, he's tough. Well, how do you know what sunshine looks like if you never had a dark day? How you know what good times look like if all you had is bad? Like it's
Yeah.
you got to know why you're being tough or when to be tough, when to
Yeah.
be emotional. I will say when I was young, my dad used to I got teased a lot, so he was very he did I did see a little bit of his emotion because I saw it, he didn't like it, but then it shifted because he's like, "No, you got to toughen up." Okay.
Yeah.
And then as the older I'm getting, he's starting to realize like, okay, I need to be a little bit more soft here because it
Yeah.
could come off as though I don't love you. Again, love
Yeah.
language, like if you're too tough, might
Yeah.
not communicate the same.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our fathers of their particular generation, I think a lot of them are coming around in
Yeah.
that way. Because to certain degrees, I felt like my father before he passed, I felt like
Mm.
he did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like he
Okay.
understood how we receive love because my brother and I, we receive love differently but similarly in a lot of ways.
Right.
And I think he realized like I needed different things than
Yeah.
my brother, and my brother needed different things than I did. And over time, and I think with the coming of our children, it helped
Hmm.
him to soften up even more,
That's
because it was
awesome.
like, okay, you can't communicate with your grandkids the
Yeah.
same way that you communicated with us, because you couldn't even
Yeah.
communicate with us the same way because we were two
Right.
different people.
Right.
You know
Oh,
what I'm
you brought
saying?
up a really good point. So, my older brother, I did not grow up with. I
Hmm.
met him when I was about 19, 20. So I
Hmm.
say that to say he didn't grow up in the same house with us.
Yeah.
When my dad let us know I had an older brother, he was like, "How should I deal with this?" Like, well, you got to deal with it head on, like you always showed me. And I remember he called me after my pops called me after he got into an argument with my older brother. He was like, "I don't know what's going on." I tried to tell him this, do the same thing I do with y'all. Like, "Oh, Pop, you can't talk to him the same way you talk to me and my little brother. You
Yeah.
can't do that because
Yeah.
we saw you every day. We got to talk with you
Hmm.
every day. You didn't see him. So there's a different communication that needs to happen to your point of
Yeah.
not being able to talk to one son like you do the other, and then the grandkids like you do to them. It's a disconnect. So in the
Yeah.
same breath, you can't talk to my older brother like that because he don't know you like that to be
Hmm.
able to understand where that's coming from. It just
Right.
seems like some dude that shrugged off his responsibilities and not knowing the entire story. None of us know the
Hmm.
entire story, but for him in that situation, you talking to him that way, it don't translate how you think it does. You gotta adjust.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's powerful,
Oh man.
and it goes back, and it really circles back around to understanding who it's the whole read the room thing. You have to know
Yes.
the room.
Yes. And we,
Yeah.
we as performing MCs, we know how to read the room. I could tell when my wife is pissed at me. She just says, "Oh, I'm fine. You not. I'm gonna give you a second."
Right.
She hates when I do that, by the
Exactly.
way. She hates when I do that. Like, "You all right? I'm cool." And she'll put on a really good face. She really will.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
"No, I'm good." I'm like, "All right, I'll talk to you later." Yeah, if you want to talk about it, you can, but
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
tell me it's raining and you just pissing on my leg. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
you know so yeah, reading the room is very key in any relationship dynamic. Oh man.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 And
Absolutely.
I'm gonna ask this one last question,
Okay.
um, because you kind of sort of like brought it up. When it comes to being a performer, when it comes to being an artist, and you don't even have to necessarily be in the realm of like the traditional love languages, but kind of thinking about how you speak to your audience, your
Yeah.
like who your people are, the
Yep.
people who tend to like lean towards your music.
Yeah.
How do you communicate love to them in a way that they can receive it
In a performing manner or
in a
like
performing
social
manner, like
media?
like
Okay. Oh,
or like
perfect.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
performing, like when you recording,
Yep.
however you communicate or however you connect with your supporters. how do you communicate in a way that they can actually receive it?
So, in I guess I have to go through performance aspect, and this is where it's going to lend it to my podcast, Artistry Ascending, where
Come
we
on now.
give game to artists and
Yeah.
how they should move in this landscape, and then to my personal advice column, the most meticulous. If you ever want to see like just little tips and tricks to your how to advance yourself as a local artist, as a local rapper, that's where that's geared to, is go to most meticulous. But the way I have learned, and I think it works across the board, but I'm gonna say it for myself. If you don't think it applies, let it fly. But the way I think you communicate love to your audience as a performing artist, practice, practice, and practice some more. Because there's nothing worse than say, I don't care about your money. I don't care that you came to see me. I don't care that you neglected any other plan that you might have had tonight by giving a half-ass show.
Yeah.
If you did not practice, if you not go through in fact, before we talked here, it's not up on my screen right now, but I was actually getting my set list together for this Friday. I got a show coming up. But
Okay.
if you, yeah, already. If you don't spend time practicing what you say you love doing, because that's why your fans follow you. They can feel that love. They can feel what your connection is to the music. How highway robbery of you to not give it that devotion that they're counting on. That they're counting on you to deliver that emotion, if not more. Because I can listen to your song all day. I can watch your video all day. That's bottled up, packaged real neat. And I can watch that, listen to it anytime I want. But if I decide to come and see you on stage and you didn't practice at all, tripping up over your words, you got your vocals in the background, you don't know what song is coming next, you're not engaging with the audience, you're just robotic going through the motions. Yeah, you're not communicating that you love yourself, your craft, or your fans, because they paid money to see you. If I see any of that from somebody else's show, okay, yeah, forget you too. I'm giving you the finger. Because that's what you're saying to me. That's what you're saying to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my fans know that I will hit you with an exclusive. I'm going to hit you with a story. I'm going to hit you with that personable experience. I'm going to come off that stage and I'm going to rap the lyrics right in your face. So you can see that, you can see it up close that this is real. This is what I love doing. It might not have always translated in the record the way I wanted it to, because it has to work every single time. But that live element, I can switch some inflections. I can make this bar mean something completely different by the way I just twisted how I bent it against the beat. Like it's an amazing thing on stage, and I think my fans and my supporters and my family have come to know that I don't slouch with that piece, and that's where you can really get the love from me.
Yeah.
Is in my performance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely, I mean, whether it's on wax, whether it's from the clips of your performances that I've seen, whether it's from the game that you give out, like it is
good love.
clear the love is there.
Yes, sir. And I think it's free.
Like I mean that's why I bought in 3 years ago.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
'cause
There
I knew it.
Hey,
I saw
look,
it.
and the
I
love
felt
was
it,
reciprocated because we got a track together that people don't
appreciate
know about yet. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
that's
Yes,
that's
sir.
gonna come
Yes,
full
sir.
circle. I'm still working on that. And that's a little again, giving my fans that extra. I'm giving your fans that extra. There's work coming that they're not ready for yet.
That's right. That's right.
You almost killed me on my track.
No. I was like, the thing is, I knew that I was gonna be on a track with you. I was like, look, I gotta raise my game just a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like that with anybody that I'm on a track with.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I respect you, and I respect your supporters enough not to cheat them out of an experience.
There it is. There it is.
You know?
Yeah. In the essence of competition, ladies and gentlemen, that's what it looks like when two MCs are trying to give a better experience. That is the real essence of competition.
That's right.
Okay, you came well. I can't slouch, because that means I don't care about what you do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I respect you too much as an
Man, that's
artist. Like not just a rapper, an artist. I respect you too much as an artist to like cheat you out of the experience and cheat myself out of the
That
experience of
too.
raising my game some more. You know
That
what I'm saying?
too.
Like
Man.
that experience sharpened me, like
Okay.
as an MC, man. Like
That's
seriously.
dope. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's what see now I got to put some wheels behind that thing and get it ready to go. There is a larger picture that I don't want to negate though. There's a larger
Right.
picture I don't want to negate. I just be so antsy. I want to put these things out like, oh, this is so good. I
Yes.
want to
Yes.
let me
Yes.
it's a souffle. You gotta let it.
I
Don't
like
be too
that.
noisy. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
souffle. Just get it time to marry and let it rise.
That's right.
Can't
That's
be
right.
too loud with it though.
Right.
All right.
Man, I couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more because
Yes,
I
sir.
can't tell you how many times I just be wanting to roll stuff out and it's like, nope,
Man.
it's a
Look,
process.
you told me
Let it
about this
cook.
R&B project. Actually, around the time we wrote that, when I sent you that record, that's when you
Yeah,
told
that
me
was
you
a
was
while
working
ago.
on R&B record. I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to hearing that. And here we are.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Boom. Everything
Yeah,
comes full circle, you know?
that part.
Yeah, man. So, man, this has been even better. Like I knew this conversation was gonna be great, but this went like out of the stratosphere
Oh,
about in terms of how great of a conversation this was, bro.
oh man, thank you. I'm glad I was able to able to be here and have this conversation with you. Yeah, when I
Absolutely.
saw you put it
Absolutely.
up, I was like, oh yeah, let me put my bid in. I want to talk.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want
And
to
I'm
talk.
glad you did. I'm so
Yes,
glad you
sir.
did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Did my friends that I tagged in that one R&B beat you did they ever jump on it or they haven't jumped
Not
on it yet?
yet. Not yet.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm
But
I'm gonna get on their line.
yeah, and it's more challenges coming.
Okay.
There's a challenge attached to this one too. So
I bet.
yeah, yeah. So
Let
if
me
they
see
don't
if I
get
can
on the
jump on that one.
first one,
I'm gonna see.
yeah, hey, do it, come on.
Yeah, yeah. Already.
Yeah,
Now I'm
man.
gonna hit their line up and make sure they do that because I don't want
For,
them
sh-
slouching on that.
for sure, for sure. So I always give my guests the opportunity to showcase everything that they do. So this is your
Yeah.
time. Plug yourself,
Yes, sir.
plug your projects, plug your clothing line, plug
Got you.
your content creation, your engineering, everything. Anything you do, this your time, brother.
Oh man, he just said everything. But let me do this. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your man's the meticulously multi-talented Mark W coming at you one more time. Yet again, how are you? You can follow me on Mark W Live. You can follow me on The Most Meticulous, and you can follow me on Artistry Ascending. I'm a part of this network called Track Life Media, where they really do support the artists and everything they're doing, whether you're rap, hip hop. I'm gonna say that one because technically those are two different things. R&B, soul, rock, whatever type of music you do. If you're an artist in this music space, they will help you out. And then we have a show on their platform called Artistry Ascending. Myself and that guy Darius, we both co-write. He produces. Mac from Uprise Imaging helps us out with the director of photography and in the Track Life studio space. And that happens every Thursday on YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasting, you can get it there. If you follow my The Most Meticulous Instagram page on Instagram and the the meticulously multi-talented on TikTok, you will get game for yourself. And these are details. And when I say details, I mean things that are really overlooked. How to properly label your tracks when you're performing. What it means when you feel like giving up, when you're looking at another person for too long, staring at somebody else's grind too long, and what that might do to your mental health and how to keep yourself on track. So things like that. And then obviously, like you said, I am an audio engineer. That's my trade. That's how I pay the bills. So if you want a song mixed and mastered, hit me up. Slide in my DMs and we'll talk about rates then. I also shoot music videos. Not a whole big thing. It's mostly guerrilla style. If you want to see some of my work, look at my page, Mark W Live, and anything that you see with my face on it, I probably shot it and I probably edited it. So please make sure you check that stuff out. You can slide in my DMs for rates on that as well. I do graphics. It all started with me drawing and rhyming. So from that, I do everything else on that. So if you want to get this nice little t-shirt that you see, hoodie that you see that logo behind me, that is my merch logo. It's just meticulous, not the most meticulous or anything like that, just the M. So if you see that M, it's an official, and that link is in my bio. I don't think there's anything else. I'm long-winded. It's multi-talented for a reason because there's so much stuff that I do.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, man. Yes. When and I'm telling y'all right now, everything that he does is excellent.
Oh
Not
man.
good, not
Oh
just great,
man.
excellent.
Man, he
It
putting
is it
12s
is
on
of
a.
the highest quality.
Oh my goodness. What was it on The Office? Excellent, above order, of the highest
Oh
order,
yeah.
superlative.
Of the
Hey man, I'm an Office head. I
yes.
watch that thing every night before I go to bed. That's
Yeah,
my
but
stuff,
my wife has been getting me more into the office lately, and I'm
bruh.
like, yeah, I got
So you
I
have
got to
Peacock,
really.
right?
I do.
Okay, so watch the regular way through. Don't watch the
Hmm.
Superfan episode yet.
Okay,
Watch
okay,
the regular season all the way through.
okay,
Get acclimated with that, and then watch the Superfan episodes. You'll
okay.
have a better appreciation for the show. I'm telling you, as somebody who didn't even know that there was a Superfan section of things, now that I get to
Yeah,
see that on Peacock, I'm like, oh, I get to relive all of this all over again. This is dope.
that's what's up.
It's
That's
awesome.
what's up.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
man, I appreciate you for
Well,
having me, AJ. I really do.
absolutely,
It's dope.
absolutely, and I appreciate you for being on and like really just man, just going above and beyond with this episode, bro. Like
Man, it's
this is
nothing.
one I know I'm gonna be running back a couple times. You know what I'm saying? It's gems galore.
Hey, man, this is awesome. You gave me a platform to be able to release them, so we in there like swimwear. Yeah,
Absolutely. All day. All day. So we gonna be talking real soon about whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like whether
absolutely.
it's just connecting his brothers, music, the whole nine, all of that stuff. So I appreciate you and I love you, my brother.
Love you too, fam.
Peace.
Peace, peace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, my brother, Mark W. Man, y'all make sure that y'all support that brother, get his catalog. You see the information scrolling right at the bottom of the screen. All his music is on. And I'm the type of person I always tell y'all, don't just stream it, go buy it. It's worth it. Trust me, it is well worth it. So y'all make sure y'all support that brother. Follow him, Mark W Live, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Support that brother. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely appreciate him for being on the platform. And of course, once again, this whole particular part of the series is surrounding my latest single called Fluid in My Language. You can get that on all streaming platforms. Um, yeah, it's everywhere. iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, Tidal, Spotify, my website, BAMMLLC.net/music. So, you know what I'm saying? Definitely make sure that y'all support that and get that single ASAP. So, definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in for this awesome, awesome episode of Bring Back the Love Conversations. Of course, we will be back next Friday night for another awesome episode. So, y'all make sure that y'all stay tuned for that. And we appreciate all the love and support that y'all show for this particular episode of Bring Back the Love Conversations, where it's all about bringing back TLC, not just the love conversations, but tender love and care. Until next time, I want everybody to enjoy your weekend and just keep the love flowing, keep the love going, all that good stuff. Until then, y'all enjoy your weekend and see y'all next time.